And welcome back, Bears fans, to the final Bears postgame show of the season as the Bears fell to the Minnesota Vikings by the final score of 38-10 in a game that was pretty much summed up by all of the turnovers that the Bears did. But you know what? It's kind of relief knowing that this season is now officially behind us. But with this loss, the Bears do fall to 0-8 on the road for the first time ever in franchise history. And they also have the worst record of any Bears team ever since the 16-game era, which started back in 1978, as they're the first Bears team to never eclipse at least 4 wins in a single season. But at the same time, it doesn't feel that bad, does it? Or maybe it does. We'll talk about that throughout the post-game show. But I'm your host, Will DeWitt, and today I'm joined, like I always am, by my two fellow Bears brothers, Brandon Hazlett and Nicholas Moriano. Gents, are you ready to break down our last game for the next 9 months?
Am I ready to? Yeah, but it's sad that it's going to be another 9 months before we get to do the next one.
It is sad that it's going to be so long before we get to break down another game, but I'm kind of glad this season's over with, especially how the game ended today.
Yeah, no, that was rough to watch. But yeah, before we get into breaking down this Bears game, I want to urge you to subscribe to our YouTube channel as you receive a notification each and every time that we go live, which is especially important throughout the offseason as our schedule isn't as set in stone like it is during the regular season. So make sure you subscribe to that, hit that little button below. That way you'll know each and every time we go live. You don't have to watch live, but you can always watch the replay. That way you know what's going on, as we're going to be here throughout the entire offseason, keeping you in touch from free agency to the draft and all the way through training camp. We'll be right here. But before we can get there, let's talk about this game, and let's enter the first quarter of our show, which consists of our opening segments and our most valuable Bears. And let's start like we always do with my monster moment of the game. And this one was a tough call. I have 3 that tie here, but I'm going to have to give it to Cameron Meredith's touchdown pass because you're never really going to see that again. I mean, maybe we will. Maybe we'll keep that in our back pocket. But that was a beautiful play. I like the trickery there. I am a little upset that it took all the way to week 17 for Dow to get this creative, but we're going to talk about that when we talk about the Bears offense coming up. But that play, it was beautiful. It was creative, a little trickery, and it just capped off a very nice 17-play, 85-yard drive. And since I saw the 85 there, it reminded me of the 85 Bears, and that's why it's going to be my monster moment. But Brandon, let's go to you. What's your stat of the game?
I really would like to say it would be the 183 rushing yards as a team, because that was my number one key to the game to beat the Vikings was run the ball, because we did it effectively last time and we won. But my stat of the game is going to be the 5 turnovers that Minnesota got 24 points off of. I'd like to say again that it's the rushing yards because that's what we need to beat them, but you cannot afford to turn the ball over as much as we did today and allow that many points. So that's my stat of the game, is it proved to be a very true outcome for the game.
Right. I mean, minus those 24 points off turnovers, the Bears still, would have lost by 4 technically, but I think they would have scored some points, especially given 2 of those turnovers, 2 of Matt Barkley's interceptions came in the red zone, pretty much taking points off the board and also some of that Bears momentum, but we'll talk about that as well once we enter the next quarter of our show. But before we do, Nick, let's go over to you. Do you have a knack or a knock? I'm assuming a knock, right?
It's definitely a knock. Usually with the losses, I'll give you a knock. But after this game, the Bears are minus 12 in the turnover ratio in their last 3 games. And just throughout the game, there's just constant turnovers. And you can't have that going into next season. And for Matt Barkley, we've seen that he's honestly, digressed each game. He's just gotten worse and worse. And I don't know if it seems like when Alshon Jeffrey's in there, he likes to target him for some reason. And that's just kind of triggering these turnovers. But minus 12 in the turnover ratio the last 3 games. So that offense is not getting it done. The whole team's just not getting it done with the turnovers.
That actually sums up the season in a nutshell. A ton of turnover, not just like the turnovers, but the turnover of the roster, the turnover because of injuries. That seriously just sums up this whole season in a nutshell. But yeah, let's head over and let's do our most valuable Bears. And I'll be nice. I'll play nice. And I'll let you guys go ahead and go first. So Brandon, what do you got?
I've got Harold Jones-Cortez, my most valuable Bear. He did have the one interception that he should have had. He just kind of fell to the ground and didn't go get the ball, which was kind of disappointing. And he had a 1 broken arm tackle that Kyle Rudolph was able to get in the end zone on. But he played a lot of heart today, and that's something that I said I'd like to see the Bears end on a strong note, play good fundamentally, and play with a good, solid heart out there and give it all you got. And Harold Jones-Cortez, for the most part, has done a very good job of that all year, and that's why he is my most valuable Bear for today.
I wouldn't have expected that coming in, so kudos to you for finding an underrated most valuable Bear today. Nick, let's go to you. Who's your MVB?
The easy one would be to say Jordan Howard, because, I mean, he was, obviously the best player for the Bears today, but I'll go with Cameron Meredith just because, he's shown up all season being that really a bright spot for this team other than Jordan Howard. And he had a nice touchdown pass to Matt Barkley. So, showed that those old QB skills at Illinois State. But, yeah, he's been a bright spot all season for us, and hopefully he continues to do that next season.
No, for sure. I swear, going forward, he better be the emergency quarterback. That was a very nice touch he had in that touchdown throw. Not gonna lie, accuracy was great.
Yeah,
the ball flight was on point. But
nice play, very very nice play.
It was a very nice play. But thanks, guys. I appreciate it because I was nice for you, and I let you guys go first. And you're gonna give me the easy one, like you said, because he is my most valuable Bear today, and that's Jordan Howard. He finished the game with 135 yards on the ground. He broke Matt Forte's rookie rushing record. He did it in 2 less games. I think he did it with about 100 less carries as well, which kudos to him. But I think more importantly, guys, maybe looking back at the season when we get our award show later on this week, I think we really need to give this offensive line the credit that they deserve because it's really not, as much Jordan as it is them as well, because there's a lot of times that they were just springing out those runs all season long and throughout the majority of the game when he was in there. But there is something that Jordan Howard does that is special because you can look at it. As soon as Langford goes into the game, the running game just kind of takes a huge step backward. It really regresses. But with Jordan in there, it's a whole different game. But overall today, you can just see him taking charge. And I even tweeted it out, and I swear it's true. And I hope someone figures it out. But I swear he has like an invisible shield around him because guys just fall off of him each and every time that they try to tackle him. And it just seems like he can just absorb the contact. Like I've never seen anyone absorb it that much. It seriously seems like nobody touches him. Even when they do, he just like walks right through him and he makes it look so easy. And that's why Jordan Howard is going to be my most valuable Bear of the game. So next up, we're going to enter the second quarter of our show and break down this Bears offensive performance in the season finale. But before we do, I have to tell you about our friends at SeatGeek because buying tickets online for sports and concerts, it's been a confusing process for quite a long time. It's always hard to find the best deal for that game or show that you want to go to. And none of those older ticket sites seem like they want to change that, but SeatGeek is different. They've come along and they've created an amazing app and website that makes it easier for fans to buy and sell tickets. I've used SeatGeek. Nick, I know your family's used it as well. It's a really a great place. It's almost self-explanatory. It's just you go on their website, you go on their app, and they'll tell you the kind of deal you're getting for the seats that you're looking for. And it's a really good way to make sure you're not paying too much for the tickets to the event that you want to go to. And SeatGeek wants to help you make the most bang for your buck. And that's why every ticket on SeatGeek, they give them a grade. And they definitely put the most underpriced tickets on the very top to put those right in the forefront for you. And the best part of all is our listeners get a $20 rebate off their first SeatGeek purchase. So to get that $20 rebate on your tickets, go ahead and download the SeatGeek app. Go to the settings tab and add a promo code. Enter the promo code BEARS. And go ahead and do that if you're going to go see some Blackhawks games or some Bulls games while we're waiting for this Bears season to roll around. I advise you to go to SeatGeek to get $20 off your first ticket purchase with them using the promo code BEARS. All right, gents, let's enter the second quarter of our show. And let's start like we always do with the guy in center, Matt Barkley, who, Nick, you kind of hit on earlier. Seems like he's taken another step backwards today. So let's go to you first. Why do you think so? What did you see today specifically that shows that he's regressing?
He tries to put the ball into tough spots each and every time, and he's just making poor decisions. It's like he's predetermining his throws on the hold. There was a hold on Cameron Meredith for, I want to say it was the second interception. Even though Cameron Meredith was being held, it's like Barkley was waiting for the call to happen, but he's still going to throw the ball into a dangerous spot anyway. But Barkley, just each and every game is just not making the right decisions. And, he's had a couple games and you'd think that he'd get better, just, drop the interceptions, but it's just showing that he isn't getting it. He's not getting the defenses that are being thrown at him. And I mean, he got benched and, David Fales came in, but I don't know why. He's shown to me like there's not a reason to bring him back anymore. I mean, yes, we don't have a lot of options at quarterback, but just these last couple games have just been really alarming for me. And I don't know if I want that on the Bears next season, even though there's no one else really there.
Right. So he's definitely put a sour taste in your mouth heading into the offseason.
No doubt about it.
Yeah, I was surprised. I mean, I saw everyone on Twitter clamoring about it. Why wasn't David Fales just going in earlier? Obviously, we've seen enough of the Matt Barkley experiment to just at least give Fales a shot. But I mean, they did, but it was in garbage time. So it's really hard to even see how that would have even, like, it's even hard to give him a grade in that, aspect. But Brandon, if you had to talk about Matt Barkley today, if you can give him a grade in his performance today, what would it be?
That's kind of tough. Giving him a grade on 14 passes. 10 of 14 on the day, 125 yards, 2 interceptions, obviously.
So technically 12 out of 14, but go ahead.
Yes. It just it's tough to give him a grade on so few passes for the day. But kind of like Nick said, he's kind of forcing things that don't need to be forced. The interception where he was targeting Meredith, it's like he wanted that flag to be there so he could get away with not having anyone else open, predetermining his throw, like Nick said. And that's something that we didn't see so much when he first came in his first couple games. And now he's trying to force the issue on things that don't need to be forced. I think his arm strength is a little weak. The pass to Alshon Jeffrey, he had the whole half back of the end zone open to him, and he still managed to throw it short to Xavier Rhodes. So those are two issues that really bother me. You obviously still bring him back and work him in camp next year to at least give him another shot, because he did prove for a couple games anyway that there was hope with him at the position. Maybe the offseason he continues to improve, but it is now an open competition more than it was before, I think.
It's wide open for the Bears, the quarterback for next season for sure. But really for me, Matt Barkley, my biggest concern or my biggest complaint now is going to have to be the red zone turnovers. He had 2 today, which makes – I saw conflicting numbers here, either 4 or 5 for the season, which is just throwing away points each and every time. And you can move the ball as great as you could. You can move it, 99 yards each and every drive. But if you're going to throw a pick at the last play, it's not even worth it. It's not even worthwhile. And that's my big problem with Matt Barkley. I don't know, now that teams have tape on him, if he's going to be able to not move the ball. We can see he can move the ball, but I don't know if when we get down to the money zone, if he has the clutch to go ahead and make that throw. And I really think now, after these past few games with all these interceptions, I think that the Bears definitely have their work cut out for them in terms of the quarterback situation. And maybe it goes back to Brian Hoyer, guys. We haven't talked about him for a few weeks, and I know for the most part we wanted to put it off as he was just playing within the system, but he didn't throw a lot of interception. I don't think he even threw a single interception this year. But yeah, exactly. It's been a while, but no, he hasn't. So I think Brian Hoyer has to come back, because he proved that he at least won't turn the ball over. And we can't really predict who the Bears are going to play quarterback next season, but overall, I think that the Bears are going to definitely have their work cut out for him there. But Nick, do you have anything else you want to say here in the quarterbacks?
Yeah, just has Matt Barkley actually played a good game at quarterback here? When you think about it, he's only played a couple good quarters, because when you think the San Francisco win, he did. There wasn't a pass complete in the first quarter, I believe, and then there was a couple good quarters we've seen of Matt Barkley. And that's the thing. If Brian Hoyer, and I know I ripped on him earlier because he couldn't score, but if he's not throwing those red zone interceptions, at least we can get field goals out of it. We can't even get that with Matt Barkley under center. I would right now, I think Hoyer's got to be the leader going into next season, being the starter, because he didn't turn over the ball, and we're not losing points because of it. We can still manage to put up, even if they're field goals, we could still do that. But yeah, Matt Barkley, man, he had a couple good quarters, and that's about it.
Honestly, I think you're onto something there. Not going to lie, but let's switch over. We're going to have plenty of time to discuss this quarterback situation throughout the entire offseason, but let's switch over to the Bears running attack today, which I thought did a really good job. They were able to run for 183 yards against the defense and only gave up on average about 102 yards per game. I thought that the Bears, for the most part, did a really good job there. I already talked about Jordan Howard, but I saw him today. He was playing sick. Let's note that now. He was playing sick. You saw him throwing up in the trash can. He had an illness, but he was still going through it. Reminds me of another Jordan in Chicago with that flu game there with Michael Jordan. But again, he just keeps proving that he's going to be the workhorse for years to come. I just feel like we're beating the same horse here, though, with everything he does well. But he does a lot well. But overall, I thought the Bears did a good job on the ground. Nick, why were the Bears able to do such a great job running the ball today?
I think it's because they actually stuck to the running game. They had 37 attempts rushing, and there was on the first drive, I believe they ran the ball 3 consecutive times for that first down. I'm like, hey, Dal Longins knows he has a running game. I tweeted it out, but they stuck to the running game for the most part, even though they were down, and that's what they got to continue to do moving forward. And that's why Jordan Howard had a good day, and it's those guys up front. They create a lot of holes for him, and even when they don't, Jordan Howard always finds a way to avoid, the first tackler and just keeps his legs moving. Unlike Jeremy Langford, when he was in, he had probably the same holes that Howard did, but he just can't manage to get the yards that Howard does when he's in that running back. But yeah, Howard's great, and he's going to be the workhorse, just moving forward.
No, I think the difference between Langford and Howard, and I really was keying in on it today because we haven't had the opportunity to compare the two, because Howard, as soon as Howard took over, it's just been him straight up throughout the entire season. And I'm just trying to figure out the difference. And for me, I think it really comes down to the vision. I think Jordan Howard knows how to avoid the contact in the backfield, to avoid the first or second defenders, which really, allow him to spring these plays. Whereas every time I see Langford, I swear he runs to a hole, and then he just either runs into the back of his own lineman, he runs straight into a defender, and that, obviously leads to very minimal gains. But overall, I thought that Jordan Howard obviously proved that he's light years ahead of Jeremy Langford. Langford did show his effectiveness in the screen game, something we saw last year in his rookie season. But overall, I thought that was a good thing. But something we need to note, and I just looked down and I kind of got sad when I saw it, it was the fact that Jordan Howard, he had 23 carries and we didn't win a game. What happened? I thought if we give him the ball 20 times, it's a guaranteed victory. But Brandon, did we miss something here in this talking about the Bears running attack today?
No, I think you've hit all on the head, and I'm not going to repeat much of what you guys have said because you've done a great job. I just want to switch over to the offensive line real quick for creating these holes for Jordan Howard and Jeremy Langford today and keeping the quarterbacks up on their feet. They only allowed 2 sacks today, one for Barkley and one for Fales. So props to those guys. Like we said, we're going to have to give them a lot more recognition in the award show later this week because they've done an excellent job all year of keeping the quarterback upright and letting Jordan Howard have the year that he's had.
No, yeah, exactly. I mean, something I saw in particular that the Bears offensive line did a really good job today. It was on screens and the runs to the outside, those toss plays. The Polars did a really great job in terms of setting the edge for those outside runs, those sweeps. White here, I saw him out there sitting. I saw him out there just really gluing on the guys, pancaking guys. And that's something that we really want to see. It reminded me of a few years ago. I think it was 2-3 years ago. I think maybe even Trestman's first season in Chicago when they would just run those screens over and over again. Even last year, Brandon, I remember we talked about the numbers of screens, but last year wasn't effective. But that first year under Trestman, it was very effective because he had the guys like Jermon Bushrod who can go out there and just destroy people. And we're starting to see that again. And I think that's why the Bears have been highly effective on those outside plays. Before the game, I would like to see what the number is going to be after this week's over. But before the game, the Bears had, I think, 20. Oh, no, it was more than it. They had like about the same amount of yards as the Cowboys running to the left side, but they did it on like 65 less carries, which is like insane. That's how much more effective that the Bears are doing when it comes to running to the ball to the outside. But moving on, guys, let's talk about these receivers today. Let's first start with Cameron Meredith, what he did well, and then we need to talk about Alshon Jeffrey, who might be in his final game as a Bear and had a very quiet game to cap off a very quiet season for number 17. So, Nick, I know he was your MVP. So what about Cameron Meredith? I quote tweeted, I think he's really starting to grow up in front of our eyes this season. I think today was another example of that. And I believe on a broadcast, they said his 4 games with like 9+ catches is like tied for the league lead, which is pretty impressive. I didn't even know that coming in. But what did he do so well today?
He really is a polished receiver now. We just see it in his route running, his blocking, with the way he catches the ball. And he had a really good route where he just made the defender go the other way and then extended his hands out. And it wasn't an easy catch by any means, but caught the ball. And he's really developed as a receiver. And it's such a great thing to see. And, maybe he's a little versatile because he was a quarterback. Maybe they can implement more passes like that. I wouldn't expect it, but that's just another option for this Bears offense. But Cameron Meredith, he's been the best receiver for the Bears this season, no doubt. And it was disappointing that Alshon Jeffrey, had a quiet game, a quiet season, really. And if that's the last one in the Bears uniform, man, it's gonna leave a bad taste in my mouth because I know we had a stable quarterback and like an offense that was more focused and knew what they were actually doing, that he would have had a way better season than he did this season.
Yeah, no, for sure. Going back to Meredith before we get back on Alshon, because we need to definitely discuss that one in full. But going back to Meredith's, an example of a play that was just proved how much he's grown up was that one of the final play of this first half when Barkley threw it, it was a little high, but he went way up there to get that ball. I mean, way up there. I was like, whoa. I mean, what a snag by Cameron. But on top of that, he got down, he rolled over and called timeout with 2 seconds left, which that awareness is something that you don't see out of a lot of second-year undrafted guys. That's something, that football smarts, it just takes his game to the next level. And I think it shows in his game with his route running. He really is a student of the game. And I think this is why he's been able to, come against all odds and just be able to continue to prove why he's going to have probably a really big role in this offense next season. He leads the team in targets. He's leading the team in touchdowns. And I think it's only going to continue to get better as we go on. But let's get back to Alshon Jeffrey, because that's a different story. And this was if this is his last game, this is what I'm going to call a way to go out with a dud, because it definitely was a dud of a game. But I understand that Xavier Rhodes is a really talented corner, but Alshon Jeffrey, you're supposed to be one of those top paid wide receivers in the league, one of those top tier, elite wide receivers, and I don't think he's played like it this season whatsoever. But Brandon, let's go to you first on this one. Are you really worried about Alshon Jeffrey's play, or do you think it actually kind of like lowers his price tag a little bit and gives the Bears a little bit of bargaining room?
It definitely lowers his price tag. Whether or not he's going to come back to Chicago for the money that Ryan Pace feels he deserves, which is probably going to be the right amount, given his play under Ryan Pace, that's a different story. But for him to go out kind of like this, I almost want to compare him to a young Sam Bradford, where he was getting injured frequently and he was getting all these big contracts based on speculation. And Alshon Jeffrey's only played one full season here in Chicago. And I think maybe we're kind of doing the same thing with Alshon that a lot of people are doing with Sam Bradford. It's all based on speculation. So I think that Ryan Pace will give him the money that he feels he deserved from what he's seen the last 2 years under Ryan Pace, and whether or not he decides to come back. I mean, it would be unfortunate because he was a very reliable receiver when he played. But if Cameron Meredith is going to continue to grow up and be the receiver that we're expecting him to be at this point, I have no problem moving on.
See, I have a slight issue with that. I just don't think Cameron Meredith is suited to be that number one guy. I think he's much better suited as that number two, the guy who can make opponents pay for not keeping an eye on him when you have like another big name like Alshon on the other side of the field. That's where I think Cameron Meredith at his best. If you have two guys on him and he's like the true number one guy and defenses are paying attention to him, I think you're going to see Cameron Meredith's games drop off a little bit because I don't think he's that suited. Nick, do you agree, disagree?
No, I agree with you, Will. I think they need Alshon Jeffrey so Cameron Meredith can have more success moving forward. And it's not like Alshon Jeffrey wasn't open this game, you guys. There were just there was a bad throws by Matt Barkley in that corner right of the end zone. If Barkley lofts that up in the back right corner, Alshon Jeffrey, if you put that high enough, he's going to go over the defender and get that. And there was another route where he was going on a corner route. The ball was thrown in the complete other direction. It's not like that he wasn't open, just the ball wasn't the quarterback, whoever was playing quarterback, didn't get to Alshon Jeffrey. So I think that he still has game. He still can be one of the top guys in this league. He just needs a reliable quarterback that's going to give him the ball. And I think that they need to bring him back. You need to test him out one more time. Do that franchise tag if you could do that again, because without him, there's not much depth at this wide receiver position. I don't think Cameron Meredith becomes the player that he is without Alshon Jeffrey.
Exactly. I think so too.
I do want to add to Nick's point too. It is tough to judge this position if you don't have a reliable quarterback to get you the ball.
Yeah, no, that's fair. That's very fair as well. I just think overall that I think the Bears would be better bringing Alshon back, but again, that's out of our hands. And I just want to point out that before the game, I tweeted a poll asking Bears fans if they believe this would be Alshon Jeffrey's final game as a Bear. And it's pretty close, 55-45, and 55% say no. They think he will be back, but there is obviously a pretty big majority of Bears fans who think this could have, in fact, been his final game as a Bear, but that's something for the offseason to decide, so we'll get there when we get there. One last topic about this Bears offense before we move on, and I want to talk about Dowell's play calling today because it was the most creative schemed, his creative, play calling that I've seen all season long. We ran the Wildcat at one point. We did some end arounds. We had that little trickery, like I said, for that touchdown. But I'm happy about it. But then, on top of that, we committed to the run for the first time, which seems like all season besides that San Francisco game. So I'm happy. I'm elated that, hey, that was a great game plan by Dowell. That was some excellent play calling. Way to keep the defense on the toes. Devil's advocate me says, well, we only scored 10 points. And on top of that, why did it take to week 17 when nothing is on the line to at least be this creative? I mean, the season's been, for the most part, very upsetting from the get-go, and the losses were adding up for the wins. And I think he could have taken some more chances early on, but I don't know. Are you guys excited about this? If he stays, if he comes back next year, are you excited about this newfound sense of creativity from Dow, or is it too little too late for you, Nick?
It's too little too late. It's week 17 where you're trying out these trickery plays and actually committing to the run game when that should have been a staple, right from the beginning. And it's just showing maybe the inexperience of Dow Loggins. He's a young guy, young coordinator. Maybe give him another year, he can develop and be a good, offensive coordinator. But I just have a gut feeling that he's not going to get that chance next season. I think he'll be gone. So it just took too long for me.
Brandon, how about you?
I think we've seen the trickery today due to desperation, knowing that it was week 17 and there's not much to lose. But we also could have said that a couple weeks ago when our playoff chances were shot. So I think it is a little too late for me. I think he's just too pass happy in a team that doesn't have the quarterback to be pass happy. We need someone who's going to be more committed to the run like we've seen today.
Yeah, I mean, Jordan Howard's your best player in offense. Why don't you just keep feeding him? I mean, we did today, but all season long, where was it? But yeah, we'll talk about that more throughout the offseason. But overall, still very disappointed by the overall play calling from Dow. And like I said earlier this week, he said no one second guess themselves as much as he does, which, what? You don't want to say that as an offensive coordinator. You want to be confident in your game plan. But I digress, and let's switch over and let's head into the third quarter of our show. And let's talk about this Bears defense, who had its worst game of the season, perhaps, depending on who you talk to. Maybe we'll talk about that. But yeah, the Vikings scored 38 points. That was the most that they've scored all season long, which is not good. But I figured the Vikings would come out and really want to punch the Bears in the mouth for that loss on Monday Night Football on Halloween, which really kind of derailed their entire season. And so I kind of saw this coming, but I was hoping it wouldn't have been this bad. But let's talk about this Bears defense, who gave up 250 yards through the air and 124 more on the ground. Nick, overall, what was going on out there?
The Bears defense weren't doing anything, honestly. I don't think they had a sack on Sam Bradford. They were missing a whole bunch of tackles, no turnovers. So they did the exact opposite of what I thought they were going to do, what I said in the pregame show, where I thought they'd have a great game. They had a terrible game. The last three games, you guys, against Green Bay, Washington, and Minnesota, they've given up 109 points.
Yeah, that feels like Trestman-esque to me, but
it's terrible. I mean, today they just didn't have anything going for them. And I don't know, this defense is top 10 statistically and maybe, passing, rushing yards per game allowing. But to me, it doesn't seem like that at all. They give up a lot of points and, we have 3 wins in the year, and then they're just not able to hold teams, and, they're not going to win a game for you. They're not going to create those turnovers that are going to change the game. But yeah, this is there's a lot of work to be done in the defense. Even though it's getting better, there's still a lot of holes in it.
I mean, I thought it was pretty coincidental that Christian Jones comes out and play, and the defense seems like it's the worst it's been since he was playing middle linebacker last season. But yeah, it was. I think today just proved how much the Bears really count on guys like Leonard Floyd and guys like Pernell McPhee to really get after the quarterback, because once you do, it changes up everything. It really does. And today, with the minimal pass rush and all that, I really think that the Bears really suffered as a result, because Bradford had all the time in the world. He was able to complete the majority of his passes. At one point, he was pretty much perfect throughout the whole first half. And I think that's where the Bears really struggled, because like Brandon, like you said, everything starts up front. Games are won and lost in the trenches. So let's talk about those trenches. Why were the Bears unable to win that battle?
That is a very good question, because the Vikings offensive line, they've gone through 12 guys all year.
Exactly.
The Bears still in this last game of the year couldn't get to Bradford. So I really don't know what the problem was. I really don't.
Yeah, no, my issue is here too. I talked about it a few weeks ago, and everyone said, no, it's not a big deal. I think it's a big deal now that Willie Young had that hot start to the season with those 7 sacks, and then he's just cooled off, like completely like ice cold for the second half of the season. And everyone's like, oh, well, it's because Leonard Floyd, he's getting an extended playing time. Oh, Pernell McPhee's back. He's getting more playing time. So Willie's just not in the field as much. Well, he was on the field today, and he still couldn't get to the quarterback. He still couldn't make any, sacks. And I really am starting to wonder if his game just is taking a turn for the worse here. But I don't know. Nick, what did you see from these edge rushers today? Why were they struggling? I think these tackles, they just had their way all day.
Well, the thing is, the Bears don't have a lot of interior guys other than like Hicks. If they put him in there, that's going to have to force the offensive lineman to have to double team a guy. So those guys, those edge rushers are going one-on-one, and, they have help. And there's just not a lot of guys that the Vikings had to worry about today, because we had so many guys out. And with that being said, we need to get more depth on this front seven, these edge rushers, just because we've had injuries all season. So they weren't able to do what they normally do and be, they were in top 5 in sacks the last time I checked. So they weren't able to do that. There's just not enough talent right now in that the depth for the defensive line. I mean, we had so many guys are injured, so it makes sense. So it makes sense why we weren't able to get to the quarterback today. But with the guys out there, you expect them to give more of an effort than they did today.
Yeah, well, there's one guy who I think gave his all, which I'm not surprised about, but one guy who still stood out and continues to stand out, and that's Akeem Hicks. He's really showing, in this game, he showed everything that we've seen all season. He made really good plays against the run, coming down, downhill really fast, blowing plays up in the backfield. He had really quick get-offs. He was just getting off the ball so fast, shedding blocks, creating pressure. It's something that we've seen from him all season long, and I love to see that he never gives up no matter what the circumstances are. I think it was even the Bears' second to last defensive drive with the one Sean Hill came in, and it was like the 4th down, and he went down there, created some pressure, and got a pretty big lick on Sean Hill, which, again, like I said, way to end the year with a bang. But I was very pleased with Akeem Hicks today. Someone who I'm still not really impressed with, though, Jonathan Bullard. He had the one good play towards the end of the game, but for the most part, he just looks slow, right, B? Did you see that too?
I've seen that, and I was actually going to bring that up, that we saw Jonathan Bullard today because we haven't seen much of him lately after a lack of effort, I believe, is how that was termed, why he's not playing. So it was nice to see him go in there and get the tackle, but aside from that, we didn't see a whole lot from him. Another guy, too, was Mitch Unrein, a guy we thought, be able to hold his own out there, but he's had a really quiet year, too, I thought.
No, that's exactly why I'm starting to lean towards the Bears drafting Allen if he's there into that 3rd pick, because if you put him up there, Hicks, like I talked about in the pregame show, if you have him, Hicks, and Goldman as a front 3, watch out, because that's just going to make Allen and Hicks on the ends, and then you have the edge rushers of Floyd and McPhee. Oh gosh, I don't even want to talk about that unless it starts happening, because I really want that to happen. But so let's talk about the Vikings passing game and why weren't we able to slow down Kyle Rudolph. He had 11 receptions, 117 yards, a touchdown, and I swear, if a Minnesota media outlet does not have a one column titled Rudolph's Shiny New Year, I don't know why, because that's like gold right there. That would sell some papers, but maybe that's just me. But Nick, I know Freeman was out there, and he's been someone who's been great in coverage today. I didn't see him too much on Rudolph. Do you think that's the issue why he was able to get open so much today?
That definitely could play a factor, but Rudolph is a good tight end, and he was out there all day. I think he set the franchise record for receptions, I believe, today. I'm like, at the start of the game, I'm like, oh, that's not going to happen. And then he started getting the pass every other time. I'm like, all right, it definitely happened. But yeah, Freeman, it's interesting that he wasn't on him like all game. Maybe he's not following him, but defensive concepts don't allow for that. But yeah, he was open all day. There was just a whole bunch of holes in this defense today, honestly, when you think about it.
Yeah, no, there really were. One issue that I want to discuss before we move on, 3rd down defense. We allowed them to convert on 50% of their 3rd downs, which is just a god-awful number. Brandon, do you see anything why that was able? I think it's just too much 3rd and short, 3rd and mediums, to be honest, on my end. But what did you see?
No, I think you're definitely right. Like, you can't allow 3rd and medium to 3rd and short and expect to come up with stops consistently. And I think that's why they reach the 50%. And with a tight end like Kyle Rudolph, you can just dump it down to him for 4 yards. He's going to pick up the extra 2 or 3 if you need it. So I think props to Kyle Rudolph for being a good tight end today. I don't know if they put Kwiatkowski on him more than Freeman, and maybe that was the issue, just Kwiatkowski not being experienced enough to match up against him. But when you have an easy, reliable target weapon like that, that makes it very tough to stop on 3rd and short.
It does. I saw that your MVB gave him a little bit too much of a cushion down there in the red zone. It was like a 10-yard cushion when he was standing at the 10. But I'll digress. This is the final game of the year. I'm not going to harp on you too hard for that one. But if you guys have any final thoughts on defense, now is the time to share them. Nick, I'll go to you first. Anything you want to talk about this performance?
I know I praise the defense all season, but with these last 3 games and how many points they've given up, I know there's been a lot of turnovers in those games, and the defense has to work with short field, but there's a lot of holes in this defense, and it has to be addressed to the draft, free agency, and top 10 statistically. But this defense is not elite by any means, so there's a lot of work to be done for going into next season.
Yeah, for sure. B?
I'm curious to know what you guys think about Jonathan Banks in his short time that he's played this year. He didn't impress me very much today.
No, not the most. Again, it's just like this whole entire Bears secondary has just been very underwhelming. We should give a shout out for Cravon LeBlanc, though, getting an interception, because that was the last interception that we've had this season was actually his, that pick six against the Lions. So, hey, 2 divisional opponents, he has 2 interceptions. That is a plus. That is something that we should at least take note of, even though with the final score, it just kind of gets lost in the shuffle there. But Nick, anything to add there on Banks? I've been pretty underwhelmed myself.
Yeah, hasn't showed me much, and I didn't see a lot of DeAndre Hall either today. I was kind of surprised, but yeah, these guys in the secondary, we're going to see what we have going into next season with them.
All right, guys.
One last point about defense real quick. Got to tip your hat off to Tracy Porter for playing through injuries like he did all year. Props to him for going out there every week and giving it his all.
No doubt about it.
Yeah, good stuff there, exactly. Something that a lot of fans, I don't think they know or realize, because they do give him a lot of flack, especially on social media. But again, he's been playing through injury all season long. He's been a warrior, so we do appreciate the effort, even though the results weren't exactly what we wanted. But let's move on to the fourth quarter, guys, and let's start with let's talk about penalties real quick, just briefly. The Bears, they had 6 penalties for 49 yards coming into the game. They were 11th with the most yards penalized against them. So that's something I think that as the Bears go forward in 2017, becoming more disciplined definitely needs to be on top of, not on top of the priority list, but up there for sure. Because I think obviously when you're giving up almost 1,000 yards per season in penalties, whereas I think the top team's only giving up like 600 or so, there's a big gap there. And I think that would obviously help make some of these games a little bit closer, maybe flip the outcome a little bit. Something else I want to talk about. Let's talk about red zone real quick for both the defense and the offense, because that was a big issue. The Vikings ended up in the red zone with scoring 75% of the time, where on the flip side, the Bears were only able to score 25% of the time. So I think that the struggles on both ends in the red zone played a big factor in this outcome. Don't you guys think so, Nick?
Oh, no doubt about it. And we talked about it earlier. Those turnovers in the end zone, it's going to kill you. You're not going to win games like that. You get down you can have all the yards in the world, but if you just turn the ball over in the end zone or in the red zone, it's all for nothing, basically. So, yeah, that's basically what lost them the game. The Bears were in position to score, but just, mistakes, penalties, turnovers just kind of killed it for them.
All right, let's switch over and let's talk about this, the third phase. Let's talk about the special teams, because there's a couple things we should know, because I have a mixed bag here. Obviously, giving up that big punt return early hurt. On top of that, Addison, he fumbled that one towards the end of the first half. That hurt, gave up some more points. But again, I can't even really fault Addison just for the fact of, just kind of got thrown in there. It's the last game of the year. Haven't really seen him out there. So it's just one of those things. There's always a revolving door to punting for punt returner. And I wish maybe Daniel Braverman would have been active. Just give him a shot at it, because it's something that he's proved in college that he can do. But on the flip side, Deontay Thompson did have that big time return before that half expired, 64 yards, which was the longest of the season. So for Thompson, someone who we've given, some crap this season for taking it out of the end zone when he shouldn't have, I thought that was pretty good. Did you guys see anything else on special teams? I know O'Donnell actually punted pretty well today too. Nick?
You kind of hit on it. That was a good return by Thompson. We usually do give him crap for whenever he does go out of the end zone. Not this time, but there's still work to be done. We gave up big returns, and our special teams used to be such a huge impact for this team, and now it's just it happens, and you just kind of miss by it. You just don't even care that it happened. So we need special teams to be a huge factor going to the next season. Actually impact games, change, swap field position, get returns, and, put your offense in good positions to score. But we haven't seen that in a long time.
No, we haven't. Exactly. All right. So I'm going to do something new real quick, because usually this is where I do the fan poll results, having them grade the game. But I did do a string of polls. So hopefully none of you looked, because I want to play this game. I want you to give me your answer, and then I'm going to go ahead and tell you what Bears fans said. All right? All right. So the first question, would you be okay with the Bears starting Leno Jr., Josh Sitton, Cody Whitehair, Kyle Long, and Bobby Massey as your 5 starting linemen to start next season? Nick, go.
Yeah, I'd be good with that. Bobby Massey's improved. Leno's proved that he, at times he'll give up that sack, but he's played, consistent all season. And then Sitton and Longer Pro Bowlers, and Whitehair is a stud. So yeah, I'm good with that.
All right, B, what about you?
Yep, I'm good with that. Proved to be pretty effective this year for the most part. Massey's improved greatly since the beginning of the year. We're not our pregame matchup isn't who's Massey going against now. He's done a pretty good job. He kept Ryan Kerrigan in check and kept his guy in check again today. So, yeah, I'm totally fine with that starting five.
Yeah, and on top of that, free agency is very weak in the tackle position, and so is this draft. So I think we're kind of given what we have right now, and I think this is the best we're going to get for at least another season. But for the most part, yeah, Bears fans agree that they're totally fine with that being the starting five next season, as 61% of Bears fans are totally cool with that. Next question is about Jay Cutler. What are the chances that he returns next season? But you have to give me a percentage, like 0 to 100%. What's the chances that he comes back? Let's go with Brandon first. B, what do you got?
It may kill me to say this a little bit, but I'm going to say 52%.
That's
because
very specific.
Well, I know. Over 50%, but not by too much. Just kind of trying to get at.
Okay.
I think there's a chance for him to come back and earn the spot. I know we talked about earlier when we had Zach Pearson on earlier in the year that it's harder to back this guy, but who else is out there to try out? I mean, we talked about Brian Hoyer, who doesn't necessarily translate the points, but he doesn't turn the ball over. And Barkley, he's put up quite a few points this year, more than the other two quarterbacks in front of him, but he's turning the ball over quite a bit. So I don't know. I think there's a chance to bring him back, but whether or not he stays on the roster, that's another story.
All right. Sounds good. Nick, give me a percentage.
Yeah, I might go a little higher than you, Brandon, on this percentage. I might go like 60% just because of the fact that there's no one else out there. Barkley has just played just so bad down the stretch, and it's going to be cheap to bring him back. It's not going to cost much money at all. And, they're going to draft a young QB in the draft. So there could be a possibility. Everyone's already, factored Cutler's out. He's not going to come back to Chicago, but the Bears haven't said anything about that. They can keep him on the roster up until training camp, and they won't owe him any money. So they're going to weigh their options, look what they have. So there could be a possibility. There might be one.
Wow. Well, you guys were a little off there, as the Bears fans, 60% of them give the Bears a 0 to 10% chance of bringing back Jay Cutler. So you guys were
That's
a little
kind of
off.
where I'd like to lead. I almost said a 6% chance, but keeping things realistic, I was like, well, with how every other quarterback's played, there might be a pretty good chance he comes back.
No, exactly. Yeah, 0 to 10%. 60% of Bears fans have him there. All right, two more questions for you guys. Next up is going to be, as of now, what would you say is the Bears' biggest need this season? This offseason, I gave them three options: secondary, defensive line, quarterback, and then space for other, just in case you do have an other. So out of those, what's the biggest need as of right now? Nick, go ahead.
Yeah, that's tough because it's either, for me personally, it's going to be either secondary or quarterback. And I'm trying to think, what do these fans think? I'm thinking everyone said we need a quarterback.
All right.
Yeah.
B, how about you? What do you got?
My gut says secondary because I think that's what the Bears need, and I think that's what the fans say as well.
Yeah, 63% of Bears fans said secondary, 31% said quarterback, 4% said defensive line, 2% gave other, which I'm assuming might be just 1 or 2 votes because I never got a reply for it. But so I don't know what the other position is. Maybe it's a coaching position because that is actually a possibility as well. But yeah, Brandon, you got that one right. Secondary, according to Bears fans, is the biggest need. And I'm going to have to agree with that. I think that's evident with I think the Bears escaped it by 1. The Creevon LeBlanc's interception today took it over the edge, but this could have been the season in which the Bears had the fewest interceptions ever in franchise history, which is just crazy. Awful. But last question, guys. Do you believe that the Bears will move on from Kyle Fuller after the season is over? Brandon, you first. Yes or no?
No.
All right. That's simple enough, and I like it. Nick?
I say yes.
See, and I don't know what to feel, which is exactly why we have a 51-49 split here, with 51% of Bears fans saying yes, they will. 49 says no. But I think that just proves really nobody knows what's going to be happening in that situation right now. But yeah, that was actually fun. We might have to incorporate that into the season, the next, or throughout the offseason. We'll see how that goes. But I think this is a perfect time to go ahead and go into the 2-minute warning. But before we do, because I have one more thing I have to share, because I am just sharing more times than not. I just had to actually find the actual tweet because I asked Bears fans to grade this season. So while I'm pulling this up, Nick, do you want me to give me your grade for this season? A through F, F minus, F minus minus. What do you got?
If I had to grade this season, gonna give it like a D minus. There's just it's 3 wins. We're gonna have the 3rd overall pick in the NFL draft. So obviously you did not have a good season. It's not an F because there were a few bright spots. There's those rookies that they show they can play if they're healthy. But yeah, it was a very disappointing season. And actually, when the game ended, just the way they ended this game today. I'm like, all right, take your time to get here because I kind of don't want to go through all this all over. All these, they're just negative, very negative emotions right now. So D minus, probably one of the worst Bear season for me personally, just because of all the disappointments, all the hype I had going into it. Because I remember saying, had they stayed healthy, quarterback, same system, we could be a good team. But that was not the case.
Well, it's okay. We learned that we're not always right, which I guess that's true for about everybody. But Brandon, let's go to you. What's your grade of the season?
I'm going to give it a D plus because the bright spots are shining brighter for me than they are for Nick, I think. Still a disappointing season. Definitely not one to remember. But you move on. I think this is a very critical off season. There are some pieces that we're going to build off of, I think. Like I said, the bright spots are shining brighter for me than for Nick. So
sounds good for me.
Not a C, but not an F.
Not a C, but not an F, but a D. That makes sense. But for me, I'm going to have to go D as well, just for the fact, I don't think it was a total failed year. I think we started to we expedited the development of a lot of young players that if we would have stayed healthy, maybe it wouldn't have happened that fast. Guys like a Cravon LeBlanc, guys like a Bryce Callahan, guys like Jordan Howard, who didn't get his chance until Jeremy Langford got injured, guys just all over. But I don't know really how to feel about this season because a part of me feels like it wasn't all for loss, but at the same time, it's still 3 wins, which is the lowest mark in a 16-game season by any Bears team ever. First ever Bears team to go winless on the road. So there's a lot of things that really put a sour taste in my mouth, but I just don't want to feel like this season was a full fail, if you know what I mean. That's where I'm kind of sitting at here. But apparently we are not in the majority here because 73% of Bears fans give them an F, straight up F, like no question about it, which I'm not going to fault them. Exactly. I can't fault them. I can understand that. I'm just going to act like there's more to the season that was behind the scenes, a little bit stuff that's going to help us for the next couple of years instead of getting maybe 3 more wins. I think that seeing all this progression with the young team is something that I'm at least proud of for sure. But we'll talk about that throughout the offseason, how much they really did progress. But I think this is a good time, guys, to get into our final 2-minute warning of the season. So I guess instead of wrapping up the thoughts on this game and put it into a season-long perspective, it might just be the time to wrap up the season as a whole. So Brandon, you get thinking because Nick, you're up first.
All right, you got me there, Will. But John Fox said that the team is closer than anyone thinks. I do not agree with John Fox with that statement that he said. There's so many holes on this team, and it's not going to take one off season of draft picks and free agency to fix those holes. There's no way. There's no way I think that the Bears become a team that can fight for the division next season. And I said that before. And the way that this defense is kind of, digressed each and every game, these last 3 games, giving up all these points. Quarterback is definitely a huge issue. Defensive lineman, we don't have a lot of depth there. Secondary has been the problem all season. Jordan Howard's a great, running back, but that's about the top-notch thing that's happening on offense. Alshon Jeffrey, we don't even know if he's going to come back. We don't know how guys are going to come back from injuries. I think the Bears are I think the Bears are further than people. No, I think they're further than whatever John Fox thinks. And this next season is going to prove it, whether or not he will be back. If Dow Loggins is back, if a lot of people are back, really. So going into next season, I'm not going to expect much. Definitely not going to expect much as I did this season. That's for sure. But yeah, so that's my last 2-minute warning to cap this season. I don't think John Fox is right by saying that they're closer than they think.
I still think an off-season worth of shows breaking down each and every step, you're going to somehow talk yourself into saying this is going to be a 10-win team again.
I hope not. I hope so, but I just we'll see what happens.
We'll see how that draft and free agency
Yes.
Ryan Pace is he's been able to turn around a lot of things quickly. I mean, this Bears defense is nothing like it was when he took over. This offense given what it's been, I still think there's stuff. I need to save my stuff for my 2-minute warning. Brandon, your turn. What do you got?
The last 3 games kind of ended like the first 3 games of the year. Not a lot of points being given up, which is kind of a sad note after kind of in the middle of the road. We were like, well, they're starting to turn things around. We're starting to be in games, this and that. And so to kind of go out on that note is kind of disappointing to me. Unlike Nick, I'm going to agree with what John Fox is saying. I think they are closer than what we think they are. He's been to 2 Super Bowls. He's an experienced coach. I think he knows what he's talking about. What I don't want to see is fans start calling for his head. Get him out of Chicago. That's not what the team needs. We need consistency. We need a guy who's been to the playoffs, been to the Super Bowl multiple times to get the team where it needs to be. And at which point, if we're not happy, still most patient Bears fan in the world talking here, 3-4 years down the road, then it's time to make the switch.
Oh, wait, now it's 4? Wait, you said 3. You said at most 3 like 2 weeks ago.
Yeah, I know. But from when he started. So next year, 2 years from now, I'll clear that up a little bit. But he's been there. He knows what it takes. I've got faith in him. I've got faith in Ryan Pace. There's solid pieces there. The offensive line's in good shape. We just need to fix a couple key positions, and we'll take this 3-win team into it. I don't want to jump the gun here and say a 500 team, but I don't see them being much better than that next year at this point, taking into account new guys coming in and whatnot. So disappointing year, but looking forward to what the offseason has to bring so we can continue to break it down and talk Bears football on a more optimistic note.
I like it. Good way to end the season there, B. Guys, each and every year there's a team that always goes from worst to first. Well, we've been finishing worst for a few seasons now. So I think any season we're going to be able to be that team, but maybe next year, maybe not. We will figure it out. But when I look back at this season, I look at it as it didn't go according to plan for anybody. It didn't go according to plan for us. It didn't go according to plan for this Bears, coaching staff, the players. No way they expected to play 4 different quarterbacks this season. No way they expected. I mean, the coaches even said they didn't expect Jordan Howard to have the kind of season that he did as well. No one expected Alshon Jeffrey to get, the suspension, not to catch a touchdown. I think he didn't catch one until the first meetup between the Vikings and the Bears back on Halloween. Nobody really expected any of this, which is kind of concerning, but at the same time, when you're leading the league with player money spent on IR with like $66 million, when you're one of I think the 4th youngest team in the league, there's a lot of reasons why this Bears team was unable to perform to the level that we expected. But the good news is, like I said earlier, we've been able to get to pretty much jumpstart the development of the younger guys. Nick Witkowski being able to play the final 4 to 5 games this season has really made him to someone who I'm okay with if he needs to be a stopgap guy like next year coming in and out. I have no problem with that because I really trust him, especially in some spell situations now, to go ahead and get the job done if someone needs to take a breather or if there is another injury to say Jarrell Freeman or Danny Trevathan next year. There's guys that we need to talk about on offense that are really surprises that it's exciting for the future. Jordan Howard, we already know all about that. I don't need to explain it. Cameron Meredith, that's been a hot topic for now these past few weeks, just how well he's been able to play. But don't forget guys like Cody Whitehair. Don't forget that, Leno Jr. and Bobby Massey got so much better as the season went along. And not only that, but they are really good bargains for their position, like the offensive tackle position. If you're going to get one of the best guys, it's going to cost you a lot of money. But these 2 guys don't count a lot against the cap, and they get the job done. I think, in the past 5 weeks, the Bears give up maybe 3 sacks. That's not too bad. I mean, started off really rough, but they were able to pick it up as the season went along, and if they can build off of it, stay in the same system, that's going to allow them to play even better next year, especially if they have the same guys next to them. That's the big thing with an offensive line. The continuity is huge, and it's key. And you get Kyle Long back, it's just going to make this line so much better. On defense, I'm excited to see what exactly kind of playmakers we're going to get in the secondary, perhaps another piece in that front 7. But I think when healthy, this defense, if they do get those extra pieces, can become that top 10 more than just statistics, Nick. More of that top 10 who can make a difference on game days and actually win some games if the Bears need it. But overall, I think if I look back at this season, I'm just going to remember all the fun that we've had on the show. I'm going to have all the fun watching these young players grow, because even though it's been a disappointment on the scoreboard, we've actually had so much fun watching like Jordan Howard each and every week. And I think that's going to be the biggest one. And maybe for next year, if the Bears can learn one thing, I think they need to learn how to play complementary football, whereas all three phases are complementing one another. And if they can do that, I think not the sky's the limit, but definitely the potential gets raised, because we've seen flashes of greatness from this offense at times from players. We've seen it from this defense at times. Special teams is still a work in progress, but it's definitely been better than it was the past couple of seasons. So I think if they can just put it all together consistently each and every week next season, and if they work at it and they keep that attitude that they're having, like they're still not giving up, that's a big key this season. This team hasn't given up despite the record, despite the 3 wins. And for me, I think that if they can keep that same kind of culture that John Fox has been able to build, and Ryan Pace brings in more of those winning attitude philosophy players like he has in the past, like Pernell McPhee coming off a Super Bowl team, Danny Trevathan coming off a Super Bowl team. Hey, whoever's going to win the Super Bowl, keep an eye out for a couple key free agents, because I'm sure we're going to bring another one in here too. So that's how I'm going to look at it. And overall, I'm disappointed at the season, but I'm excited for the future. So sorry, guys, if I went over 2 minutes on that one, but I had to let it all out. So before we go, I want to go around one last time. Sum up this season in one word and one word only. So make it a good one. So Nick, you think, because now it's Brandon's time to go first. B, what do you got?
Boisterous. We've voiced our excitement when they played really well, and we've really expressed it when they haven't played well. So I'm gonna say boisterous. I think that's a good word to describe how we've discussed the season as a whole.
That's a very good word.
That's a great word. It's a great
way
word.
to pull out the thesaurus. Where's it at? I don't see it. But Nick, what do you got?
I didn't pull out a thesaurus, so I'm just gonna say one word to describe the season was disappointing.
Yeah, no, disappointing is definitely an understandable word. I'm going to say surprising. There's just a lot of surprises, good or bad, all season long. It just didn't go as we expected it. So that's how we're going to wrap up this 2016 Bears season, one that was boisterous, disappointing, yet shocking all at the same time. It's still fun, right? Not as much as we'd like, but next season, we'll have more to talk about. But I want to thank you all for watching live, because, there's more football on right now, but you chose to watch us. So that's really cool. That's pretty awesome. So we do appreciate that. And, of course, I want to thank all of our podcast listeners who have listened throughout the entirety of this season. Honestly, if you're listening to this post-game show right now, pat yourself on the back, because you're one of those few diehard Bears fans who are still here after the worst season since like 1978 that the Bears ever had, and you're still here, you're still wanting to talk, you're still here wanting to listen to Bears football, and that's honestly more than awesome. And I just want to pat you on the back for sticking through this really rough season, these rough past 4 seasons, because it hasn't been easy, but you know that. So kudos to you guys. But that's going to do it. We're going to wrap up the 2016 season here. But guess what? Don't worry, because we're going to be back soon with our 2nd annual Bears Awards later on this week. But it's going to be our 1st annual Bears Awards show, as last year we only did a post for it. This year we're actually going to do a show. I think that's going to be on Thursday. We just got to check everybody's schedules. But we're going to do that. And we're also going to be here throughout the entirety of the offseason, breaking down all of the action from free agency, the draft, some mock drafts, all the speculation, all the excitement. Nick's going to talk himself into a 10-win team by next season. Just wait and see. But until then, cheer up, Chicago. The future is bright. Trust me. Bear down.